When people hear that, I don't want to go corporate. To me, there's no personal left in it anymore.
I think the key is...
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. So I would clarify, like, what comes first, process or culture?
Hey everybody, I'm Eric Obrempt, and you're listening to Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. We talk about real shit, what's on our minds, and don't give a fuck if it makes you feel a little uncomfortable. So sit back, strap in, and get ready for some real shit.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. I'm your host, Eric Obrempt, sponsored by, now that we have a sponsor, SMA Support Services. Look at that shit. It's on my shirt. That's a big fucking deal, folks. Yeah, we definitely want to thank our sponsors, SMA Services. If you need virtual assistants inside of your company, specifically roofing companies, they are the highest level of virtual assistant and support that I've ever seen. I have multiple people on my team that I use inside of the SMA service, and if that's something that you don't know anything about, you should reach out to them to get some more information about SMA Support Services. So today, special edition episode, we are in Grand Cayman on the Exhale 2.0 retreat, scuba diving retreat, the Underwater Unmastermind, where we bring down some high-level dudes to hang out, got a house, got a chef, we go diving for 4 days. It's an amazing experience. If it's something that you're interested in, reach out to me. You usually need to be a member of the Cult Culture Movement coaching group, but there are exceptions. And the guy that I'm interviewing today is a fucking exception, but maybe we'll get him in CCM anyway. But I want to introduce my guest today. This is going to be fun. Brian Franco, thanks for being here, Brian.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
This has been awesome.
Today was amazing.
Today was amazing. Today was our first day of diving.
Yeah.
And what did we do?
We did 2 dives.
We did 2 dives today.
One was rough. Little bit. But once you got underwater, you never knew.
That's why you jump in. Yeah.
You get in.
And tomorrow morning we're gonna do a sunrise stingray trip, which is gonna be really cool. That's a fun thing. So we have decided that you do some work with Daniel Rabowski.
Yep, that's right.
And I know Daniel really well. Yeah. Love Daniel, and he called me and was like, "Hey, you need to know Brian better. We all need to do some cool shit together." Yeah. And so we are, and we'll tell everybody about that in a little bit. But introduce yourself, kind of the nickel tour of Brian and what Brian does now, and then we'll kind of dig a little deeper into the why behind it.
That sounds great. So Brian Franco, as you know, founder and CEO of Meritage Partners, founded the firm in 2005. I was 26 years old. I cut my teeth at another boutique firm, for a couple years. I left that firm, I was 72% of revenues, and I left with a vision. And that vision was really there to help, founders, entrepreneurs, and business owners, from startup to scale up all the way to the exit strategy, and really develop the playbook over the last 20 some odd years, right? We've deployed over $2 billion of capital. What that means is that we've transacted primarily on sell side mandates. So that means if you own a company, we represent you, we tell you what you're worth or how the market would perceive the value of your business. Mm-hmm. And then we go to market and we test that, more than test it, but we really focus in on strategic buyers. And so I'll unpack more of that later. But why it's strategic is because they're going to pay the highest valuation for the business because you have the most value to them with the least amount of risk. Mm-hmm. So there's always that risk and reward equation. So we have, we're going to be celebrating 20 years of the firm this year on May 5th. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I like to couple that with, I started the firm 3 months before my wife Melody and I were married. Mm-hmm. So 20 years of marriage in August this year. So
20 years of 2 marriages.
Yeah, 2 marriages.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, really.
The business.
And
my wife.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Recently, though, I guess I shouldn't even say that. Is it recent that you've started digging into the home services side?
So no.
Okay.
So home services back in 2005 to let's say 2011, in that era. 2005, anything construction, you were killing it.
Okay.
'06, and then '07 hit.
Right.
And we're looking at each other thinking, like, what's happening? And then '08, it was a big smack in the face, and it was like, money stopped flowing, lenders stopped lending, construction just stopped. So what we found at that time, there's two industries that were really explosive. The pet industry, which was interesting, because people were looking for companionship during that time where people were losing their homes, their cars. So anything pet related was explosive.
Really?
But the other,
Like, what's an example of that?
oh, this is the era of when we started buying clothes and strollers
For our dogs?
pets.
The fuck out of
Dogs.
here. Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that phase.
No, that was the phase. 'Cause
Really?
Everyone lost.
Is that because
everything.
you were in California?
That's probably the piece of it.
Because there was nobody
Yeah.
buying fucking strollers
Yeah.
with their dogs
I
in
mean,
Nebraska.
Like, no joke. Like, you're walking down the boardwalk on the beach and you see someone pushing a stroller. You can't assume it's a kid.
No.
You can't assume it's a human.
I would.
Yeah, I typically do, but living in California, you think that could be a dog.
Do you feel out of place there?
Where we live, no.
Where you live, no. But
we're-
like,
yeah, we live in Orange County, so we have the orange curtain, so like we're protected there.
yeah.
But it's like you do run into some people that migrate into that.
But I mean, yeah. If you leave that orange curtain, though, like,
it's
you might
different
as well
world.
be in a different world, right?
I think I was telling you, like, yeah, it is. Crossing LA County line from Orange County is kind of, you have the sensation like you're almost
Does your
crossing
stomach hurt?
international.
Yeah, stomach
lines.
hurts a
Yeah.
little bit.
It's
Like, they might
am
check
I
your
safe
ID.
here?
Yeah, they might check your ID
Right?
at the border.
Yeah. It makes you think like, maybe I should get a CCW.
Have you thought? I have no idea why I'm even going here, but I think it's just because everybody is like, thinks that California is absolutely fucking insane, right? Have you gotten ever to a point? I mean, I know you're in your world, right? But have you ever been like, fucking enough's enough?
Yeah.
Like, have you thought about it?
So I have 4 kids, right? So
That's true.
We think about
you're not
this
gonna-
a lot.
Yeah.
My wife, she's a teacher by trade.
Okay.
She's now, focused on the kids full time, but so we still believe in the public school system.
Yeah.
We're still there.
Yeah.
It comes with challenges, but we love the challenges, man. Like, my wife organized, during COVID, like unmasked the kids, and
How'd that go?
we had big rallies, and so it went good, but it came with some backlash, right?
Sure.
So, for example, the principal at that time, she told my wife, she goes, there's only a couple of you families that have a problem with these masks, right? And so that's all she needed to tell my wife, and then it was like game over.
Right.
That principal's gone. We're still there.
Yeah.
Right. And even down to one of my boys, Nolan, he wouldn't wear a mask. Like, and this is, we're years beyond COVID.
Right.
Like, we didn't even talk about it, but since you asked, like,
Yeah.
So we like to think like we're that light there.
Yeah.
Right. And we're going to dig our heels in.
Yeah.
But my son Nolan had to go to school sitting outside, some days in the rain. Granted, they were covered, and the principal would come over and be like, you guys could go inside the classroom and just put your mask on, and it's warmer in there and everything. So there was my son and a couple other boys, and they're like, nope, we're good. And so what had happened is our son and his friends really went to school outside for a couple, it was weeks, like 6 weeks.
Who the fuck was teaching them?
So they had packets, and the principal, she was punished indirectly because she was the one that had to sit outside with them in the cold rain. There again, our kids are still there. That principal's not.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
So there's times like that you're like, all right, do we fight or
Right.
do we go? And so we're of the opinion we're like, we're going to fight.
Yeah.
And we actually hope people move back to California and
Right.
fight with us
Right.
in that sense, because it is crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely nuts. Like, I mean, if you and I were to sit here, think of like, okay, what are some just crazy rules we could create for society? Like,
They did it.
they did it. They did it.
They fucking
You know?
did it.
They did it.
Like, if you can imagine it,
Yeah.
they can
Like,
execute
you
it.
couldn't sit inside a restaurant, but you could sit on the inside of the outside of the restaurant, which was in a tent.
Right.
Explain that to me.
I can't. I can't explain any of it to you. So, yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
we thought, yes, you know, we would love to be somewhere tropical, but you can't go to Hawaii.
Right.
That's even worse.
Right.
nor do they want us there, which is understandable. But I think I'd have to be like by the water.
Yeah.
So maybe
And you're from there, though, and that's home.
Yeah, I'm from there.
Right.
My wife's from there.
Yeah. So that's different. It's different.
Parents
You're
are
home.
still there. Her
Yeah.
parents are still there.
Yeah. Anyway, I didn't mean to sidetrack. That's what we do here. We fucking sidetrack. So
check.
Yeah. Check. Yeah. Box checked. So I'm interested, and I think that my audience is interested. Because tell everybody, like, I think this is a good way to start it, because we were talking the other night about that you were thinking about rebranding your podcast.
Yes.
Right? And so tell everybody what you're thinking about rebranding that as.
Yeah. So the backstory is October of 23 was the first episode we dropped, and
now it's called.
So now we're rebranding. It was called Private Capital Mastery.
Okay.
And now we're going to rebrand it to the M&A guy.
Right.
Because the M&A guy is like immediately you know what it is. Like private capital mastery, it does mean a lot of things intentionally, but because capital comes from either debt or equity, right? Mm-hmm. Which one do you want? What are you going to use it for, right? So that's why we did that. I'm working on a book, as I mentioned, Private Capital Mastery, because I want founders and entrepreneurs and business owners to be able to understand how do larger blue chip companies, public companies, private equity backed companies access capital for purposes of growth, startup, scale up to exit, right? Mm-hmm. And it's all there, right? Because at some point in your journey as an entrepreneur, you get too big for the small regional banks. You're too small for the larger national banks, right? So you're in this, what we call this no man's land. Mm-hmm. So the private capital markets, or even in like our retirement funds, there's this allocation of alternative investments. That's what that is, right? So there's money, committed capital there on the sidelines, waiting and ready to be deployed into the right investments. But where public companies, they have audited financials, they have close to real-time data, right? They have public filings, so you could see what the balance sheets look like, the P&L looks like. Mm-hmm. But in private companies, we don't have that equivalent, right? So as private companies, we're taking a snapshot in time of a financial statement or statements, and then we're going to capital providers, and they're making a decision on that snapshot. Mm-hmm. But sometimes that snapshot's taken, we're in a process, and now 2 months has passed, right? So you have to have this perpetual kind of process,
right,
and system,
because it takes a while to close a deal anyway.
It does,
right?
It does.
I mean, how long is an average, like from LOI to close?
So soup to nuts, record deal is 28 days.
Jesus.
Yeah. There's a story to that, though. It was a public buyer, publicly, and this is all public information. So it was LabCorp, which is second largest clinical laboratory.
Yeah, I use them.
Yeah, Quest or LabCorp, those are two big ones. And LabCorp was they had to be in 3 geographies that they weren't to service a national, I can't remember if it was a Blue Shield or Blue Cross contract. Our client was in one of those 3 territories. It was in the armpit of America, Yuma, Arizona.
Wow. And
they said, we need it, we want it, let's go. So they didn't.
So they wanted to buy the armpit.
They're in the armpit now.
Okay.
I call it the armpit because it's hot as hell there.
Yeah.
And then 2, the interesting thing about Yuma, Arizona is that the population doubles in the winter. Sure. Because of snowbirds, right?
Yep.
And so you have this influx of business. So in any case, they needed and wanted to be there. Forget about multipliers of earnings in terms of evaluation methodology. They came in and paid a multiple of revenue because they needed to be there. So we got 28 days. So
sure.
That's the reason.
Yeah.
Now, and you look at the slower times of the economy, a transaction can take, up to 12 months.
Right.
And here we said, beginning of 2025, for the last, let's say, 36 months, the average close period is about 60 to 90 days.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was longer. I thought it was like 6 to 12 months generally.
It depends when you start the clock.
Right.
So from the point of signing a letter of intent or an LOI, it should be 60 to 90 days.
Okay.
Right. So, but one thing we found out is even early in my career, transactions would take 12 to 18 months. Mm-hmm. It's because you have to have that process. You have to check all those boxes throughout. And then if you forget something and it delays, now all the things you have done now have to be updated.
Right.
So we've gotten really good with our systems and really good with our process. So we learned we cannot collapse time during the process. So what we want to do, and kind of to sneak peek, jump into the event we're putting on next month, is we can collapse time leading up to going into a process.
Right.
So if you could condition, and we could condition our clients to start looking at their business and making measurements they've never made before, and then when they're ready to, hit the start clock, right?
Then we're close.
The data's ready, because
Right.
you have to build, like, it's an encyclopedia Britannica of your business.
Right.
You have to have like everything in
And
there.
to make it clear for everybody, your role is you represent the seller.
Correct.
And so does that replace, because I've got a couple of friends that went through this process,
Okay,
and and they were just giving me stories, right? I know like fucking just enough to be dangerous,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
But I was hearing stories and they're like, well, we had to retain this guy, and we had to retain this, this attorney and this guy, and we were about, with attorneys and blah, 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 we were $500,000 in by the time we were done, or whatever, right? Or $250,000 in, or whatever it is. So do you take over a lot of that responsibility and then are getting paid on the back end for the deal, or how does that work? Are you representing them, or are you bringing in third parties?
So all of the above. So if you know the story, those folks that sold their business and they had, $500,000 legal bills, did they have an equivalent of like a firm like ourselves in them? Do you know?
I don't know the answer to that question.
All right. So I asked that because so there's business issues and topics and of a transaction, and then there's legal issues and topics, right? So what we do is we, as the Southside M&A advisor, we typically work with our clients are the sellers.
Right.
Now, when we place, there are circumstances where when we place an investment as a platform, our firm will then go and target add-on acquisitions. And we do that on a buy-side mandate where we're now representing the parent of whoever acquired the target in the first place.
Got
it. And we usually have those strategies in place. We know what's down the pipeline. So going back to it though, we work extremely hard to collapse time. Like I said, but we do that prior to saying go. When I say go to market or GTM. And so the way we do that is, we make measurements, we build a data room, we track the changes, we take it in 90-day stints, because you can't do much in 9 days, right? 90 days you could actually measure the difference. Yeah. But the point is that we will bring a team in, because you have an M&A advisory firm like ourselves, a wealth advisor, a CPA, and a transactional attorney. Now, you don't want to use, Uncle Joe, who's a personal injury attorney, trying to do a M&A transaction. But those are the ones you really want on your team.
Got it.
So there's
so the person selling is paying all those people individually as well, right?
Yes.
They're retaining them individually to represent their their interests.
So what happens is when you think, you get 4 professionals in a room, you're going to have how many opinions? You're going to have 4, right? At least, at a minimum, 4.
And you help disseminate all that?
We do, but we do it by way of, we understand the client's expectations up front. So a lot of times our clients don't know what to expect themselves.
Right.
So in those baseline measurements and those assessments that we'll do up front, we start to formulate the expectation, right? And so at times they're there and they're ready, and other times they're not there, and so they need a 12 months, 2 years.
And that's why this event is so important.
So it's crucial because we're taking those baseline measurements. We're playing referee at this stage. We're saying, hey, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, this needs to be fixed, that needs to be evolved, so on and so forth. But typically as a referee's not a coach, right? So the referee is just calling foul. That's what we do with these assessments. But, collaborating with professionals like you that are coming in and guiding them and coaching them on process, on culture, on all of the above, and Robowski's more on process.
Right.
It gives them a holistic approach to, okay, this is what we need to now execute upon.
Yeah.
And so the underlining measurement is transferability. or lack thereof.
Right.
So if you score low,
Yeah. And most people that are probably going to come to this are going to score low or medium.
typically.
Right.
So it's 0 to 100. Most on the initial assessment are 50 to 65.
And you can sell them at what?
80.
Right.
80 we're high.
But if somebody comes in at 80 or 90, they've probably been talking to somebody already because they're that if they're that prepared.
Typically.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
So
they already know the game.
So let's thread back in.
First of all, let's tell them what the name of the event is. Sorry.
Oh yeah, so it's called Legacy Ready Live.
Okay.
So Legacy Ready Live is going to be an in-person event in Newport Beach, California.
Yep.
We're going to the first day is going to be a half day of racing on a Porsche racetrack. Everyone gets their own Porsche. We're going to be on a racetrack.
And do you know why that's exciting for me?
Why?
So you don't know. I don't know. I don't know what you know about me. But so I've obviously gotten in a lot of trouble over my life.
Okay,
right.
We all have.
Jail, looking at many years in prison.
Yeah.
So on my last charge that I caught 15 years ago, I got sentenced to 15 years without a license, a driver's license. So I have had for 15 fucking years an interlock in my truck, which means I can't wreck cars. I couldn't even drive my wife's Jeep that I pay for.
Yeah.
Right. I drive my truck, and if I have another office down in Houston, I have to have a truck there with the interlock in it so that I can drive it. So literally, just this October, I got my driver's license back. I was 16 years old. I had to go down to the fucking DMV
on your birthday,
take the test. No, because it was
no. But when you're 16, you went on your birthday.
Right.
At least they used to.
Yes, correct. That. And so I literally got my driver's license back, and it was so weird because I remember when I got it taken away when I was 30, I was like, I'm going to be 45. I'm not even going to make it to 45 because I just got sober too. So I got sober when I was 30, and I'm like, there's no way that's going to happen. So fast forward 15 years, I get it back, and everybody's like, what's been the biggest inconvenience? And I'm like, I can't rent cars. And so they're like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm going to go rent some I'm not a car guy, right? Like we were talking about cars in the car the other day, and I was like, dude, I got nothing. Like you asked me about a truck, I got you. But I've never owned a car in my life. I've only owned trucks since I was 15 years old.
Okay.
And so I was like, I just want to drive some fancy ass fucking Ferrari or Lamborghini or whatever it is. And so my buddy down in Texas, Billy Fain, had bought that Ferrari Spider, whatever the fuck. And he fucking came to my office and picked me up and said, we're driving to Galveston, step on it. And we fucking drove down to Galveston, and I was like, this is cool.
That's cool.
And so it was, that just makes it fun, extra fun for me, because I'm like, a year ago I couldn't have went.
Yeah, but it's not just like driving on a highway, because you get on the car and you could push this thing. They have wet tracks where they'll spin you out.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be fun.
That's awesome. So anyway, I didn't mean to digress on that.
So Legacy Ready Live.
Legacy Ready Live.
Day one, Porsche race.
And it's February
27th and 28th.
February 27th and 28th in Newport Beach.
Newport Beach. Okay. And you have the link, so we could put some show notes in for the folks. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a group of business owners. We're all going to get together, push ourselves, have a good time on the racetrack. And then day two, we're going to wake up. We'll do some paddleboarding. Our office sits on the back bay, so we'll do some paddleboarding out the back bay, which is relaxing. Come back in and get to work. And we'll do the assessments. We'll do the valuations. So we're going to have everyone assemble some financial data, submit it prior to the event. Our analysts in the office will go through the information and have it all prepped and ready to go, so that when we're on site, right, this particular valuation will be just plug and play. We'll put it into our platform, and then we'll spit out the results, right? And so something like that costs, if $7,500 starting.
If somebody calls you up and says, Brian, I'm interested in knowing how to sell my business. I don't even know where to start. I don't know what to do. And they just call you. You'd be like, first thing you do is you need to take this test.
That's right.
And it's going to take this amount of time. I'm going to need this amount of information. And I'm going to charge you $7,500 to do that, because it takes a lot of effort and a lot of analysis to be able to do that. Right? But at the event,
we're going to do it all live. I mean, there'll be some prep work, but we're going to do it live. We're going to give the results. We're going to be able to walk you through kind of that valuation spectrum, show you where you land on that spectrum, because there's a low and there's a high. We all want to get to the high end of that valuation spectrum. The question is how.
And you're going to get a day of coaching.
In a day of coaching. You'll be there.
Right.
You'll be talking about culture, which is key, because when you think about, it's like a marriage, right? You have a husband and a wife, typically. I'm from California.
Yeah.
They come together. There's a culture. Do the families align or not, right? And so there's an endless amount of like in-law jokes, but do they align or not, right? And so culture of organizations are similar in that when you're merging two entities together, what's that going to look like? Because, and to come full circle with your original question in and around who's in the seats of the professionals in a transaction, you have the sell side M&A advisor, CPA, wealth advisor, and attorney. Now, the more things in a transaction that we can settle from a negotiating standpoint and from a deal structuring standpoint, the faster the transaction can consummate. Because number one rule in our business is time kills deals.
Right.
Bottom line.
Right.
And so we want to collapse that time, and we want to get to higher certainty of close. And we do this by way of the assessments and evaluations.
Right.
So a $500,000 legal bill, I've seen them. They're real. Usually those are much larger transactions, or those legal teams are spending so much time
getting them ready,
trying to solve for there's perceptions of risk in a company.
Right.
That if you and I are an investor and this business is just a mess.
Yeah.
Like we're going to pause. Even if we want to transact and close the deal, we're going to pause and say, okay, these risks need to be situated. So then the legal teams are arm wrestling over, okay, how do we say this?
Right.
What borders and boundaries do we put around it? And time is ticking. Ticking. So we avoid most all of that, or at least minimize the amount of legal topics that will be discussed later. In a recent transaction we're closing this week, we had 12 legal issues. That's not a lot.
Okay.
And 2 of those 12 were actually the buyer group giving us historic data on there, because there is some level of reverse due diligence. So we wanted to see what their valuation was. How did they do over the last 3 years? And that was 2 of the 12 legal topics, right? But that's because we know what our clients' expectations are up front. We know what the market's going to offer. For this particular transaction I'm referring to, we had 7 different offers, of which we only went with 1, obviously. And we aligned it. So by the time it got to the attorney's desk, it's like check, check, check. And then and at that point, they're just crossing T's and dotting I's. So that's how we minimize the time and thus the money, legal money specifically. And really, I mean, you have to remember this. Like, if I was an attorney, which I thought I was going to be at one point, I'm going to make money by the hour.
Right.
So how do I make more money? I charge and bill more hours.
Right.
So as an attorney, to be fair to them, the incentive for them to earn more, right, is typically take longer.
Right.
So what we try and do is we try to, again, get the client ready, but then also once we sit with the attorneys, we want transaction attorneys, and we want those transaction attorneys to give us a baseline, like flat rate. And if anything happens out of the ordinary, right, then we understand.
And they'll do that.
Most will.
Yeah.
Most M&A transaction attorneys will, because they know.
Right.
Someone that's not familiar with transactions,
right,
they're going to be like, well, I don't know. What if it takes me, 80 man hours,
right,
or 40 man?
It's the same thing. Like in our space, if you try to use an attorney that doesn't do first party litigation, and you hire, like you said, fucking Joe's uncle down the street, like, I got an attorney. It's like, no, you don't have a first party lit attorney. Like, you need to know.
You got to know
what you're doing specifically in this
that
genre.
Right?
Exactly. Yep. So the ideal. And I want to bring this up again because I think this is important.
We're going to take a quick little break here. I want to stop and thank our new sponsor. If you're serious about getting your time back and scaling your business, then SMA Support Services is your secret weapon. I use SMA for all of our support and admin tasks. Everything from back office management, day-to-day admin, even a call center. Their team frees up my staff to stay focused on high-level, revenue-generating activities. And that, let me tell you, is a fucking game changer. SMA isn't just support. They're a partner that keeps our operations running smooth and efficiently. So if you want to focus on growing your business and leave the support work to the pros, hit up SMA Support Services.
To reiterate, because I was talking to Daniel about it on the phone the other day, and I was like, hey man, I want to push this event.
Yep.
I want to make sure that I'm talking to the right people and I'm giving them the right information, because everybody that knows me knows that I am not the fucking expert in this. And I'm not pretending to be, because there's other assholes out there that go on social media and they're like, I'll teach you about private equity and I'll teach you about this. And it's like, dude, you don't know fuck all, right? And I don't know shit, right? I know the right people. I know Brian Franco. But so what I want to make sure is, like, at least here while we're talking about it, that anybody watching, and so when we cut this up into clips and stuff, right? Like people, like we can be clear about it. It's literally, if you are at all interested in the next however many years getting your business ready to be able to possibly have an opportunity to sell your business and make an exit, even if you're just thinking about it, so that you can get assessed and start figuring out where to plug the holes in your boat, right? This is an event that you would want to be at.
So
agreed?
100% agree.
Okay.
Add on
did I say it right?
No, you did. But but then, you know, there's also death, divorce, burnout. Like there's all sorts of reasons. Like in the context of what you and I are about the same age, and we have, you know, God willing, you know, 10, 15 more years to productively work and mentally be there.
Right.
But people, you know, people burn out. People get ill.
Right.
You know? And so you have to get to a place where you're accepting the fact that we are all going to exit. The question is it going to be on your terms and timing?
Right.
Or even if it's not on your timing, you can still be on your terms if you're prepared, right?
Right.
Like same reason that we will buy life insurance policies. We don't know when we're going to pass from this earth, but we will, right? And so we have these life insurance policies for that reason. So an exit strategy plan is key, because in the context of what we're talking, it's like, yes, we want the big liquidity event. We want that big payday because we're growing, we're scaling, we're crushing it, right? But there's some people where, you know, I have a case study where, you know, older partner, younger partner. Older partner's like, I'm done. In fact, I was done 5 years ago.
Right.
Buy me out. Younger partner's like, I can't afford to buy you out. And so what we would do in a situation like that is like, we'll take the company to market. Younger partner will stay with the acquiring group.
Right.
And the beauty is you can never outrun a deal, is what we'll say. Because when you think about this, if you're acquired by a larger light company that brings, you know, synergies into the business, in whatever industry you're in, product, service, doesn't matter. But they're able to grow and scale at a much faster rate. Why? Because they have the capital structure, they have the financial controls in place, they have the ability to go out there and access that capital if and when needed, right? Mm-hmm. So when you think about, okay, let's just say you're a $10 million revenue company, a revenue company, and you're acquired or you merged by a group that's $100 million. So, and let's say that $100 million a year company is growing at a rate of, you know, 20% a year, right? Which is not uncommon, because they're growing both organically and by way of acquisition, right? Because organic growth, I mean, I think as business owners, we could grow at like a rate of 8 to 10 to 12% year over year. Safely. But that's almost bootstrapping it, not taking any debt.
Very much.
Because we've been trained that, you know, debt is a 4-letter word.
And this is kind of what we were talking about this morning, having coffee, right? Because I hadn't really thought of it the other way, like the way that you're going into it. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I need to change the way that I think.
So if you're growing at, let's say, 10% a year, the acquiring or merging group is growing at 20%. When day one, when you come under that umbrella, right, you're growing at their rate as well.
Right.
And so you can't outrun that. You could do the math a million different ways. I mean, even if you were arguably growing at 20%, you're growing at 20% of a $10 million company, not $100 million.
Right.
Right. And so, but then you also think about the risk, your personal risk, because right now when something goes wrong in the business, the Bank of Eric steps in, and he's sometimes,
right.
As business owners, we sometimes write checks or wire transfer back into the business.
I've done that.
I've done that too.
Yeah, own personal fucking cash.
Because, you know, the local banks, they don't want to touch it.
Right.
Right. So, but when you have like that larger capital acquiring group, it always comes with capital, right?
Yeah.
So they have a capital strategy there. So, I mean, so we're coming back full circle. We're all going to exit. You know, you should always be ready for that exit.
Size of company, people watching that would be appropriate for this event? And I know the answer is any size, but like...
No, I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's... so ideally you want to be profiting at least $500,000 a year.
Okay.
So different companies will have different profit margins.
Yeah, but so I mean that's a $3 to $5 million company.
Could be.
Yeah.
Or it could be a $1.5 million company that's really crushing it.
I mean, fuck that guy.
Right? No, but
fuck that.
Yeah.
He's got 3 employees and he's fucking just
And
God, that'd be nice.
Seriously. But no, so
there's days why I wonder why I didn't just stay there.
I know. Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then at that point, it's like you have a job.
Correct.
Right. That's
100%. And that's why I did.
Yeah.
Right.
But at that time, it was comfortable.
But you look back though, and you're like, whew, times were easier then. You know, like they weren't.
But how many times have I heard, I made more money when I had less employees?
Yes.
Right. But I mean, everything's a cost.
100%.
Right. And so if you could scale, if you have the right team, I mean, so let's say you're not exiting or you're not selling. We have a guy coming to the event and he has 2 key employees today and he wants to transfer shares. We haven't figured out how or at what capacity, but he wants to transfer shares to these 2 key guys so they have skin in the game.
So why can't you do those shares?
So, well, the point being is he's going to come, we're going to do the valuation.
Oh, to figure out what it should be.
Okay. So, because shares are shares. Like, what's the dollar value per share?
Is he going to give real shares?
That's something we're still talking about. That's what he intends to do.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, most larger groups will have like a 10% carve out on the cap table for management shares. Because you think about this, like, we all have bad days.
Yeah.
Like, and if you have a key employee and has a bad day, like, you want to have some insurance policies that, okay, you had a bad day. That doesn't mean you have to quit. Doesn't mean you have to leave.
Right.
Doesn't mean you have to go start your own business.
Right.
Let's figure this out.
Right.
So with having that skin in the game, some people call it golden handcuffs.
Yeah.
I don't like that because it just, I mean, who wants to be handcuffed to anything?
I do that with life insurance policies on the guys, and I invest into them, and then I have
Cayman life insurance.
I have golden handcuffs on like 3 or 4 guys. Not like that, but like I invest so much a year into a life insurance policy, and if they stay for 7 years, and they get the cash.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people understand how to do that.
I didn't understand it either. I know smart people. They fucking said you should do this. I was like, that's a great fucking idea. Let's start doing it. Yeah.
But there's value to them because it has a face value.
And it shows them that I value them.
Correct.
Right. And I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I'm going to be talking about is like, why aren't we investing in those people?
Yeah.
Right.
People aside, you value the company.
Yeah.
And so you're doing those things to protect the business.
Correct.
Right. At the end of the day. And so those are tools we could use.
But what's funny is that was never the thought that ran through my head.
To protect the business?
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
I mean,
maybe subconsciously it was, but like now that I think about it, like, the guy when my advisor came to me, he was like, you need to do this so that you don't lose so and so or blah blah blah, and I'm like,
it's true.
But my original thought was, yeah, man, I don't want to not have them here. That would be horrible, and I wanted to make sure that I figured out a way, but I never thought about. Obviously I thought about it. I'm not stupid, right? But like, it didn't. The agenda wasn't. I was thinking about the health of the business, which is fucking stupid, really. But like, I was so focused on the people, and I think I am an anomaly in that way. And I probably to be honest, I probably get a rash of shit from a lot of people because of it. Because like, I do think about my people probably more than I should. And I know Ty and I are the same way. We think we can fix everybody, right? And like, we hang on to people way too fucking long because we're so invested in the human too. And there's days I get yelled at for that. And I'm like, I'll do better, but I don't want to change who I am either.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying.
And I probably shouldn't put that on record in case somebody's watching down the road and they're like, this guy won't fire anybody. And yes, I will. I fired plenty of fucking people. But I get so invested in the humans. right? That it does
See,
make
this
it more
this is the
difficult.
hard part. Is entrepreneurs, right? We're still human,
Right.
right? We still have emotions.
Some
We're
don't
still,
seem to be, but
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
We still care for people, but the reality is, if you can just for a second, don't look at this as your business.
Right.
Look at this as its own being.
correct.
Right. And so now when you do that, you have a fiduciary responsibility to that company.
100%. Yeah.
Right. And so like when someone's tugging on the heartstrings and you're like, all right, I'll give you another chance. I'll give you another chance. It comes down to, it's like, you are not fulfilling your fiduciary responsibility to the business.
Correct. Yeah.
And so
Yeah, no, you're right.
arguably, I'll pick up myself. I should be fired in that case. Because if I don't have a good fiduciary back to
Right.
my own company, right, why am I running it?
Yeah.
Right.
So if you get acquired, you will probably be fired.
if you do
you
that,
don't- if you don't do your job.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to make it hard. I mean, because it's like, usually there's incentives to do well together. We win together sort
Right.
of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's some clients that should have sold their business 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And they don't have the time that we have.
Yeah.
They have, okay, I'm going to sell this on Monday and I got to be out by Friday.
I was really interested in your. I probably shouldn't even put this out there, but like I was really interested in the conversation that we were having
Last night.
this morning.
Yeah.
When we kind of started going back and forth because I was trying to understand a little bit more, and because I need to plan.
Yeah.
Right, I need to plan, and I've got a good business, and I've got amazing fucking people, and I've got good systems, I've got good processes, I've got a couple locations, but it is also, I guess you don't know much about my business, but so my business is D&M Roofing.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather started the company back in 1965.
Wow.
His name is Delton Mayers, so it's named after my grandpa as
Is
well.
it a real original entity or is it a new entity? New EIN, tax ID number, or is it the
I
original?
think he and I changed the EIN
Okay.
back in like 2002.
It's not. I mean, not. I would suggest.
Here, you know
do
what
that
though?
anyway.
Here's why.
Yeah.
Because he was never
Incorporated.
actually incorporated.
He was a sole proprietor.
So back in like 2000 or
Yeah.
97
You
or some shit,
incorporated.
we incorporated and got an EIN with both of us on it or whatever. But it's still D&M Roofing, right?
Yeah.
And siding, and named after my grandfather. And I always said, like, I'll never sell, right? Because of that fact, right? But as we were talking this morning, it's like, well, there's a couple different ways to grow, right? And if you figure out how to acquire and then figure it out,
Correct.
right? And do it on your own, because like, I have zero desire to get out of my business right now.
Correct.
Right? Like, I love my people. I love running the business. I love doing that. But I also need to plan for what happens in 10 years.
for the sake of the business, but also for the future of these individuals,
Right.
that come together
Yep.
under your leadership, right? And
Right.
So, absolutely, because we talked about organic growth,
Right.
and then growth through acquisition, right?
Yeah.
And so,
I'm really interested in that.
I know,
Yeah.
because you're growing just fine organically.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at your platform, your business is a platform.
Yeah.
You have systems, you have processes.
Yep.
You built amazing culture. You have a good reputation. Like those are the key ingredients when you're going to build out a platform. So then, if you could bring in other companies that I don't want to say are inferior, but perhaps they're less skilled when
They're
it comes
missing something.
administrative back office,
Right.
Right, and if you could give someone the opportunity, hey, let's merge together. Here's how this.
So when I moved to
structure's
Texas,
gonna
it
be.
probably would have been smarter if I would have known the right people to figure out how to go acquire somebody and
Correct.
turn it in, instead of me opening up the office.
That's right.
And it's taken me a year and a half to start building it properly.
because you're doing it.
You're doing it very organically.
So this is exactly why private equity groups are so explosive in home services, right? Because they can grow faster by way of acquisitions than they can, call it, like a grassroots effort or
Because that's what I'm doing.
you're trailblazing.
Yeah.
You start, office
And
comes
it's
first,
fucking
and then
hard.
business. Yeah, because there's two ways, and I'm generalizing, two ways I see operators grow a company. They either go out and they sell, and then they come back to the office and they're like, we have to service all this work I just sold.
Right.
We got to go hire someone. And then the other operator is like, okay, I'm going to hire people, I'm going to train them, and then I'll go sell.
Right.
Right. So it just really depends on the personality. There's
so
I've
many-
seen it executed really good both
Yeah.
ways.
There's so many different options, which I didn't really realize. And I think that's why this is so interesting, because this has become such a buzzword in our industry, in the roofing industry, in the last 3 to 5 years, I guess I would say. And everybody thinks that they know what the fuck they're talking about until you actually talk to somebody like you who actually knows what they're fucking talking about. And it changes the game a little bit, right?
You see 100%, because you see a lot of, I see it too, right? And you see these, guys and girls, coming on and talking about, we could increase the value of your company, or but the question that I have for them is, what are you increasing it from to begin with? And then number two, there's bad ways to grow your company, right? So if you're growing, let's say, you don't have this issue, but in some industries, you'll have customer concentration. Meaning, if you're selling $10 million of revenue, and 70% of that is coming from one customer, that's bad.
Right.
Why? Because that's risky. And so when you have risk...
But there are some roofing companies like that.
Yeah, and so
like that have like a Costco or a Walmart contract, right?
Well, I saw a company in California. They're doing $60 million a year.
Yeah,
and over 80% of their business was coming from Angie's List.
Ooh, really?
Really.
So they're running on 3% margins and
low margins because Angie's List. I mean, they take their fair share.
Yeah, and they're garbage leads.
Plus
some.
And then they have the ability to resell those leads as well. So I looked at that company. I said, 60 million in revenue. These guys are kids. They're 28 years old, 29 years old, crushing it. But it's like, how do you transfer that? How do you transfer that relationship and make sure it's sustainable? Because investors like predictable revenue streams.
Sure.
Yes, that's predictable, but it's predictable at a cost, and that cost shrinks the margins, the profit margins, when you're paying out to a...
But by that theory, almost every roofing company is a bad investment.
No, because you have retail and then you have insurance, right?
So you like retail companies?
I like a balance of the two.
Okay, got it.
Right? Because you could get close to it, but you can't project out these next 5 years and say, we're going to have a storm on this day, we're going to have a hailstorm on that day, we're going to have a windstorm
unless
on
I
that
go acquire 3 to 4 more companies that are in different markets, and then one can fucking take over for the other one, which is why I opened in Texas.
So individually they'll ebb and flow,
correct,
but collectively
that's okay.
You kind of flatten out that lumpiness of revenue.
That was literally why I opened Texas. Yeah,
which is
so I had the right idea, I just haven't fully executed on it yet. Yeah.
That's
okay,
right.
Got it. Yeah, all right.
So I mean,
so I'm not a total fucking idiot. Got it. Okay. Tell my wife, Natalie, you heard it. Brian said, not a total fucking idiot.
He's not an idiot.
Not a total.
I'm here to tell you. Yeah.
Not a total fucking idiot. Okay. So February
27, 28.
27, 28.
You're going to deliverables. You're going to walk away with the assessments. You're going to be doing some as well. You're going to be talking to the groups.
I think the real big one is Robo too, though, because we got to talk about Robo because once you do the assessment, you find out where the holes in the boat are, right? Then Robo's going to be able to help you plug your holes in your boat.
Well, of course, because Robo's going to come in and he's going to really work the owner out of a job.
Yep.
Right. So I'll pick on myself again. Like I'm wearing these 6 hats, and if I go to sell, the buyer can't sign 6 employment agreements with me.
Right.
They're going to say, well, what if you get hit by the bus? We always use that illustration.
Right. So do I.
So a lot of buses, a lot of bad bus drivers out there. But the reality is when you come and you look at that, you're like, okay, if I could look in the mirror and say, you're fired, fire myself, and usually it's going to be 3 to 6 people to replace the many hats what we're wearing.
Yep.
Especially me in the early years of my business as well, right? I was like the cook and
did everything
and the server, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, Robo's going to come in and he's going to systemize everything and create again a predictable revenue stream through processes that everyone's following. Because we talked about this too, but it's like operators and owners say, I don't want to get all corporate. Right. And so when you dive into what that means to people, getting corporate or being corporate means getting your shit together, being organized. Right. And who wants to be organized? Like, we all want to be organized, but it's like, who's going to initiate it?
And I think that when people say that, because I'm the culture guy,
Yeah.
I think it means disconnected from the pulse of the company.
Yeah.
Right, because because there's no personality
Yeah.
to a corporation, right? To going corporate, right?
Correct.
It's just these are the things. Do this. If you don't do this, you're right. And it's like, and there's no personal connection. Maybe it's also from all the many times I went to court and thought I was going to jail, right? And it was like, but this is a special circumstance. Let's talk about it. You know what I mean? Where when people hear that, I don't want to go corporate. To me, there's no personal left in it anymore.
I think the key is.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. So I would clarify, like, what comes first, process or culture? Like, that's it, right?
What do you say?
It could go either or.
Yeah.
But I would prefer culture first. Because if the culture is to not become corporate, but if the culture is to become the best in class in your industry.
Right.
Right? Like, I aspire.
Everybody's an A player.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be the CEO of just my company. I want to be the CEO of my industry.
Right.
And to do that, you have to lead. You have to do what others aren't doing. You have to innovate, right? And you have to be, I mean, there's some bold moves we'll make, right? But it's like, I mean, you should have seen the compliance and legal team talk. You're going to do a podcast? Oh, what are you going to talk about? You got to be careful.
Did you tell me you're going to be on this one?
No. The point is, it's like, you know, it all came down to like disclosures, right?
Yeah.
But
don't call me after this because it's airing like no matter what. So,
but the reality is, it's like if we're talking about things that have happened in case studies, and we could help provoke thought in someone, or educate them, or help them avoid pitfalls. Like I was telling you this morning, like I've never lost money in business, but I paid a lot of money in tuition to learn the things that I've learned along the way. Because I bought companies, I bought platform companies, I bought add-ons to those platforms, and I've sold those companies. So I've been in those shoes. Mm-hmm. Like I know what it is to be a buyer, I know what it is to be a seller, right? And I also obviously know what it is to advise buyers and sellers. Mm-hmm. And so having that full kind of spectrum of experience really helped me. Like if I made $0 on the deals that I've done personally, I've gained so much.
You've learned so much.
So much.
And I've been thinking about your question now.
Yeah, which comes first? Culture?
It's culture, but here's why.
Yeah.
I think that if you have your culture established, then when you dig into the systems and the processes, you'll get more buy-in.
Yep.
And you can't have systems and processes work without buy-in.
Yep.
And you can't just have fucking buy-in unless you have the culture and everybody's bought into your culture. Then when you bring because especially if you ever tried to change a fucking process, right? And so if you don't have the buy-in that they trust you, you're fucked because everybody will leave, right? And that's like, of the things I talk about, I don't think you've seen my keynote or anything, but like the top pillar of my team method that I talk about is trust, right? It's trust, empathy, authenticity, and meaning. But like trust is the base pillar. And if we don't have that, you're screwed. And it really makes sense in this context because if you don't have the trust of your people, true trust, right? True trust that they believe that everything you do is for their better benefit.
Correct.
And not just your benefit, right? And if they believe that because it's true, not because you tricked them into fucking believing it, because that's what a lot of fucking people do, right? Not because you tricked them into fucking believing it, because you actually truly believe it.
Correct.
Then when you come in and go, hey, we're changing a process, this is why, they'll all look at you and go, I'm in, I trust you.
Yeah, they buy
But
in.
if you don't fucking have that,
good luck.
Good luck.
Yep. And especially if you're
Thank you for making me think about that.
Good.
Yeah, that was good.
No, because to your point, I mean, if you have culture, you could really do anything.
Yeah.
Like, you could change industries if you wanted.
And depending what the culture is. Because everybody has a culture.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Everybody has a culture. And I don't, when I talk and I speak, I'm not saying you have to have mine. Right? I'm going to give examples of what I think a good one looks like, right? But it doesn't mean that it's the right one for you. But there's plenty of companies out there, their culture is doing cocaine and fucking hookers.
Correct. That's not
right.
That's not a.
It's not a
It's not
transferable.
going to be a transferable or fruitful culture.
Shockingly enough, it was for somebody else. But as a general rule, no. Man, that really made me think.
Well, I mean, so that's the beauty of the event we're putting on.
Yes.
Is we're going to touch on all of the three of these topics simultaneously.
I'm really excited.
I'm
excited more after getting to talk about it more. Like, I knew I wanted to be involved.
Yeah.
And when we got on that call, I mean, I literally sat on the call and I was like, look, I don't really know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah.
But like, I really like Robo. I really trust him. Yeah. He said the same thing about you.
Yeah.
I like just working with really cool fucking people.
Right.
And maybe we'll go through it and you'll be like, Eric, never fucking again. Like, you're out. Like, okay, that's fine.
Doubtful,
but like, I love just surrounding myself with really cool people, which again, not to circle back to my shit, but like, that's why I put this on.
Correct.
Right? Like, I told everybody at dinner last night, I don't do this to make a bunch of fucking money.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's community.
I'd like to, but like, I don't do this to make a bunch of money. I'm not trying to make this into some 800 person mastermind. I'm not, right? Like, I've got cult culture movement. I like to have 15 to 25, and maybe 30 people
that's what the event's going to be.
In that, 30. Right? Yeah, it's going to be max of 20, 30 people, right?
25, 30 people.
Yep. And like, that's what I want my community to be.
Agreed.
Right? Because I can affect people in that circle. I can bring 10, 15 people on this amazing experience, and everybody gets to talk to each other. They get to learn about each other, and you get to leave hopefully with like truly new friends and relationships. And like, that's powerful, man. Like,
it's so powerful.
That shit's fun.
Because, you know, it's lonely on top, as they say, right? And so you can't have these conversations you can't go back and talk to everyone in the business about, hey, I'm thinking about building this.
I can't talk to my wife a lot of the time about it, right? And that's not a dig on my wife.
No.
What I've learned is that I can say whatever I want to about my wife now, because she doesn't watch my show anymore at all. So like, I can say anything I want about Natalie, but like, I can't even really go home a lot of times, because like, if I raise her fucking stress level because of what I'm going through, that's going to raise my stress level even fucking more. So it's like, I'm not going to bring that shit home. I mean, we talk about work and everything.
Well, just like my wife, Melody, I mean, they want security.
Right.
They want predictability. They want what investors want.
Right. Oh, shit.
They're smart.
Yeah.
I mean, they've always been smart, but
we're dumb because we live in fucking chaos all the time.
maybe
thrive in it.
You know what? Let's just have that.
We're just all alcoholics, Vic. We're just all fucking alcoholics. We strive. We win in chaos because that's all we fucking know.
I never connected the dots that investors are like our wives.
Yes, that's totally right.
They want predictable lifestyles,
which means we need people to talk to.
Correct. And so yeah, when you're trying to talk through this whole concept and idea of like, okay, the question is it when? Like, is it a date on the calendar, or is it a dollar amount in the bank account?
Yeah.
You know, so when we talk about expectations, that's where we got to unpack and figure that out.
I mentioned this to a really good friend of mine who's went through this already.
Okay.
And I texted him and I was like, I need to figure out my number.
Yeah.
Right? And how I get there and whatever. And I thought I knew it. And he was like, here's the equation. And I was like, wrong number.
Yeah.
I was not prepared for that number. And he's like, that's the number that you're cool no matter what. That's the number you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Correct.
Right?
Well,
that's the number.
Yeah, one of the questions on our assessment, I'm trying to remember it, but there's multiple choice, there's 3 answers. And I'm going to guess a little bit, but is someone wealthy, was it like A, someone that has $10 million net worth, B, someone that could do whatever they want, whenever they want?
That's the answer.
That was to me, right?
Yeah.
And I forget the third one. I'm not even going to guess.
No, like that's the answer.
But
the other answers
for me,
are wrong.
It's B.
Yeah.
It's B as well.
Yeah.
Because 10 million could be, yeah.
And it depends on where you live.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
10 million.
10 million to me is a lot more than 10 million to you.
Yeah, it might not get you a house on the beach in California.
But I mean, but that does matter, right? If you're living on a coast,
it's all relative.
Yeah, it's 100% all relative. That's why the numbers don't fucking matter.
Yeah, correct.
Right? This is a lifestyle that I want to live until they dig my fucking hole.
Correct.
How do I figure out how to do that? That should be our goal. And I didn't ever know that was my goal. I thought it was you just keep fucking running the business until you're fucking, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like a car.
Right.
You drive it till it
fucking wheels fall off.
Yep.
And that was the mentality that I had for a very long time. And I've been very lucky to get into these different rooms and these different events and hear people like you speak and go, ooh, all right, shut the fuck up and listen more. Ooh, is that the name of a book I just wrote? It sure is. But like,
name drop.
but like, I need to shut the fuck up and listen a little bit more because like, there's a lot of stuff going on out there that I wasn't aware of until the last couple of years that made me think and made me start building my business a little bit differently, right?
Especially in home services. I mean, you asked me the question, is this a new thing? Well, so our firm, we're well known in a variety of industries, but AEC is one. So that's architects, engineering, and construction.
Okay.
Now, home services is a subset of construction. So back in 05, 06, there was the roll-up of water and fire damage restoration companies. So these companies were merged together, they were rolled up, and now there's huge like national players like Blue Sky is one that comes to mind.
Yep. Hard to compete with them.
Yeah. So those are owned by private equity groups.
Right.
And they grew by way of acquiring growth through acquisition, right? Look how far they've come in the last 20 years. Like in some instances, it's difficult to compete with them on an insurance paying job because insurance companies can't say they have preference with them, but there's a relationship.
But they have preference with them.
But they have,
Yeah.
But the preference comes by way of they have a predictable service.
Yes,
and
right.
They have a predictable process.
Yep.
And they can tie math to that, right?
Yep.
And so it works, right? Because I always remind people, insurance companies, their job is to insure us, but when I've tested this in real life, their job is to first figure
That's
out
their business. That's
how
not
to pay.
I was going to say that's their business. That's not their job.
No, their job is to figure out how not to pay a claim.
Correct.
And that's
because that's how you make profits high. I mean, that's just simple.
That's right.
And when people get upset about it, I'm like, why are you getting upset? Like, we knew the fucking game.
It's capitalism.
Like you can't even get mad as a homeowner or a contractor, right? Like, I mean, we can be annoyed that we have to fight this battle so
100%.
often, but like we still have to understand, like, they're a for-profit company, and you better make your fucking homeowner or policyholder understand that they're a for-profit company.
I just read this article. So right now we're in the, we're here in the Cayman Islands, but back at home we have all these fires.
Yeah.
Right. And now we're going to have heavy winds again next couple of days, so everyone's on edge. But there was this article I read.
You think this is God telling California to get its shit together?
Man,
sorry. We started with that. We'll probably end with that. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's making his point.
Yeah. Right.
If the answer is yes, he's made his point.
Check. Yeah. Got it. Sorry. Go on. Fire construction. Yeah.
So this article read, "Treat your insurance claim like a business transaction." That was the title. And as I read it, and I didn't read it verbatim, word for word, but we're just talking about this is a business transaction. You have to have supporting documentation. Like, so for example, I mean, and if your house burns, your documentation is likely in the house, right? So we little life hack we figured out, because in our house prior to this, we lived next to this hill, not mountains but hills, and the fire came up to the egress of the neighborhood, so we got out. But before we got out, we were told, walk around your house and film. This is this TV. This is a massage chair. This
right.
Cameras. This whatever
Mm-hmm.
So you have that documentation showing you actually have those things. Mm-hmm. These are my golf clubs. These are my whatever. And so we did that, right? But coming back to that article, it just said, treat it like a business transaction.
Smart, yeah.
But the issue is, and to your point, like, these are our homes. We live there. We raise our kids there. Like, there's emotional connection. It's not just a structure, right? Mm-hmm. And so, of course, it's upsetting. Like, it's devastating what people are going through right now.
Yeah.
But you have to treat it like a business transaction.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is.
And that's why I enjoy doing commercial more than I do residential. Because when I do commercial, I get to have a business transaction with an intelligent individual that's making rational decisions.
Correct.
And I can have
Correct.
I can have dollars and cents and value
Correct.
conversations, right? When you deal with a homeowner, you're dealing with emotion. You rarely are getting rational decisions, and it's why I won't even sell roofs myself to homeowners. I have a division that sells
for that
residential, and it's fine. It keeps our lights on, and it's a good chunk of our revenue. But like, I focus on the commercial side because I love the meeting that I dipped out for this morning. Was to help one of my guys in Texas on a commercial call, because that's my background. That's what I've done since I was 10 years old, and I love having commercial conversations with people.
So, question for you on the commercial side. Do you do the maintenance work?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and we're growing that this year because we've.
I asked you because. Do you know that your maintenance revenue is worth more than your replacement?
So I just learned that, which is why I'm growing it even more this year, because then I'll have an opportunity in a year to maybe come back and be like, now look what we can fucking do.
So you saw like HVAC companies selling for 10x.
Is that what they were getting? Yeah.
Because that were recurring revenue. Because it's So people are like, well, why? It's predictable, right? Just like our wives like. But you think about like when you think of 10x, you're like, why would anyone ever pay that much? And when I say 10x, it's like 10 times EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation.
If you don't know what that is, come to the fucking event.
Exactly. But software companies were trading at 20x, 25x, right? It's since normalized. People say it's come down. It's just normalized. But the reality is you had MRR and or ARR, monthly recurring revenue or annual recurring revenue, depending on the software license. It's predictable revenue stream every single month, every single year. And so now apply that same business approach to commercial roofing, and you have this maintenance component that's monthly, quarterly, annually recurring revenue. No matter what the economy is doing. They want these roofs inspected, right? For residents, it's hard to sell that because they don't see it as an ROI, return on investment. They see it as hey, you're eating into my
commercial
vacation money
now. So that's our 2025 goal, is to hit a number on that. To be able to really show. Because
remind people, all revenues are not equal when it comes to valuation.
No, that makes sense.
So.
All right, we should probably wrap this up. I think we went about an hour and a half, which is awesome. You never know how these are going to go. And this was great.
You made it fun though, because what I typically talk about, it's like so dry. But
I mean, and this is very intricate, smart information. But I think if you put me in a room, we're going to dumb it down. Because I'm dumb.
Well, no, I mean, but you have to put in bite-sized pieces. Yes. Like an hour and a half, I lost track of time, but. Like, we're barely scratching the surface.
100%.
We haven't even talked about deal structure. We haven't talked about earnouts. We haven't talked about
which
equity.
is why you just need to come to the fucking
come to the
event. Come to the fucking event. And we're gonna drop this early. So I'm gonna get this out so we can run a ton of clips and we can promote it and get people there, because it's really gonna be fun. Not only are you like gonna get a shit ton of value out of it, but it's going to be fun, and there's gonna be cool people there.
Even if you're 10 years out from even exiting anything. You have to have that plan in place.
Let's get a plan.
It's a contingency plan.
Yeah.
At best.
Yeah.
At worst, I'm sorry. At best, you're figuring out, okay, who are my key players in the business? Should I have them on the cap table, on the ownership table with me? If so, like that one gentleman, what should it be? Right. And so, I mean, and then I'll leave you guys with this too, though, but if you do something like that, you don't want to give it to someone all on day one. You want it to vest over time, kind of like the life insurance policies, right? I think you said 7 years. That becomes their ownership. Right? So you vested that over 7 years. But a lot more to talk about. Thanks for having me on,
dude. This has been awesome. I've had a really good time getting to know you here, and then obviously here as well, and excited for that to continue.
Me too.
Everybody, thank you for tuning in to this episode. This has been a lot of fun. I'm glad we've got an opportunity to do this. Please check out Legacy Ready Drive. Legacy Drive Ready.
We'll leave some show notes.
What did I call it wrong?
I thought you were talking about
the name of the event is...
It's Legacy Ready Live.
Live.
I
was close. Legacy Ready Live. In Newport Beach, February 27th, 28th. Reach out to me, Brian, or Daniel Rabowski to get your tickets. Also, thank you to our sponsor, SMA Support Services. We fucking love you, SMA. You're our favorite. Because we were trying to get sponsored by Zen.
No go.
as a joke, right?
Okay.
But then they won't respond to my shit. So then I made my own Zen tins with the podcast for Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. Also, by Cult Culture Movement. If you're interested in an accountability group of other business owners and entrepreneurs, a small, intimate group, we're taking applications. We don't let everybody in. You have to kind of fit the culture. Just like we were talking about, you have to fit the mold. But we are taking 2 to 4 new members in 2025. So maybe that's you. If it is, reach out, bi-monthly calls, and then you get an opportunity to apply to go to a really cool event like this. So, sponsored by SMA Support Services, not Zen, Cult Culture Movement, and come to the event on February 27th, 28th. Reach out for more information. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And remember everybody, to be authentic, get the fuck out.
Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Yeah. Swipe.